Hey folks, well this is sort of a book report. I was given as a gift The Grand Design, a brief book by Hawking and Mlodinow, and right off the bat I want to say I think it's a really good book and a lot of people would enjoy it. I didn't, but I think that's because I probably never would have purchased it or read it unless I was given it as a gift, and only read it because it was so brief. It's 180 pages of text, big text. The science in it I've already heard about. I didn't really learn anything new, but it's well done. And for those that are not really into grand unification theories, theories of everything, specifically string theory, or as it's called now, M theory, it's a very good introductory book, but it's really not about science as much. I mean, it seems to me science is a secondary theme of the book. It's a necessary theme, but this somewhat surprised me. I'd heard a little bit about it. I heard someone making a comment about how Hawking was bashing religion and God, but just one small comment. And I didn't realize that throughout the book there was a consistent theme, and I think the primary theme is we don't need God. We don't need God to explain the universe, why the universe formed, how the universe formed. It can be explained through science, and why the universe is the way it is. A whole series of different issues and arguments, which I won't really get into, because hopefully you'll read the book. I mean, I really think it's a good book if you're not already very familiar with the material. It's a baby book. It's presented really nicely without any math, and for most people that would be just a great book. And for atheists and theists that are tolerant, I think you'd like also the fact that there's an explanation for how all this stuff can come about. So science is used in the service of saying we don't need God to explain all these things. I guess for me, I mean, I just recognize a lot of people who just love this. It got a little tedious. I mean, the whole book he's saying we don't need God, drummed over and over again. All these examples, going back to the ancient Greeks and all the way through history to modern times. The good guys are Einstein and Feynman, atheists. Although the word atheist is never used, especially Feynman. The bad guys are Newton and Aristotle, especially Aristotle, the folks that do believe in God. And it's not really that subtle. It's not like totally in your face. It's just there, but it just keeps accumulating. So actually, I actually don't like the book, but I really think it's a good book for almost everybody except me. And I'm not trying to, I'm just, yeah, I didn't like it. But I think it's a really interesting book. I think a lot of people, especially in the atheist community, would really like it. As far as the science goes, Hawking is pretty much into the broke stuff, the stuff I like. And also discusses something which is a secondary theme, but pretty far up there. It's the idea of model-based scientific inquiries, the idea that we can never have a picture of reality, objective reality. There's really no way to access that. It might not even mean anything, probably doesn't mean anything. What we do is we build models, and it's kind of like an apology, in a sense, for the fact that string theory doesn't really work the way we want it to. We want to have a definitive answer, and he's essentially saying we may not ever, because the reason why there are certain physical constants, the reason why particles have the masses they do, and the forces have the particular qualities they do, their strengths and how they change with distance and all, is a function of curled up dimensions. So yeah, the 10 spatial dimensions, 1 temporal dimension, and in the case of our universe, 7 are curled up, and the notion is that those 7 can curl up in 10 to the 500. That's a really, really big number, different ways. And there may be no reason at all. Well, he's saying there is no reason at all why it turned out to be the way it is. Why they curled up in the way they did. So science usually says, why are things the way they are, and looks for reasons. And because of quantum mechanics, Heisenberg uncertainty principle, and summation of history, something that Feynman did with QED, quantum electrodynamics, the idea is that there is an inherent randomness. There's all these universes that can kind of pop up into existence, and there's no reason why they have the particular constants that they do, except, of course, any universe that we're in has to have some specific constants, the anthropic principle. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. And so it's a really interesting analogy. He uses the idea of a Decatur map. If you have a sphere, a globe of, let's say, the Earth, and you represent it two-dimensionally, any map will have distortions in it by the nature of just flattening out the sphere. However, you can create a variety of maps, and you can use those maps to have accuracy in any particular point on the globe, and not use those portions of the map where you have distortions. Now, of course, that's not because we don't understand what the sphere is. That's just because we're using 2 dimensions to represent it, because it's more convenient. But in the case of M theory, superstring theory, the idea is that we may never be able to figure out precisely which universe we occupy, because there is no reason why the universe is the way it is, because of the nature of quantum mechanics. So what we're going to do is we're going to get as close as we can, but it's not going to be the right one because there's so many possibilities, and we'll just create different maps that work under different conditions. That's really super unsatisfying, and that's the kind of thing that generally science has looked down upon. It means when you have a situation like that, you do not have a complete theory. And I believe that you don't. And he doesn't quite admit that, but that's what he's saying. It's sort of there. It's saying it's just too hard to get to that because there's no way to get there, at least as far as we know. Although in many cases in science we've said that before, like you can't, ever see atoms, and we can see atoms now, and all sorts of other scientific prohibitions that now we can do. But this one looks pretty tough. So anyway, it's a good book. And for atheists, it's probably a great book. It's just not, it was a little disappointing to me. So I feel somewhat ambivalent saying I really didn't have a great time with this book. And yet I recognize that this is probably a great book for most of my subscribers. And so I recommend it. Stephen Hawking, Leonard Mlodinow, The Grand Design.